Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Wow. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. It is Fearless Friday, and I've got a treat for you guys today. I want to introduce you all to Kyle Costa. Welcome, Kyle.
Hi. How's it going?
He is he's a realtor and broker owner of Bayshores Real Estate. Check out that awesome logo behind him. Love it. It's in Newport, right on Broadway, right? In Newport?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
35 Broadway, Newport.
Nice. So he has been a realtor for over 18 years. He's bought, sold, flipped, renovated, knocked down houses and built them on stilts. He's done it all. So today we're going to chat with Kyle about just real estate and building a business. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I know a lot about Kyle, but my audience doesn't. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs, actually a lot of realtors as well. A lot of, small business owners. So tell us a little bit about your journey as a small business owner and realtor.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I've been doing real estate, like you said, for about 18 years now. And I started it kind of alongside of my mental health background, which I worked for the state mental health department for 20 plus years. And about 2 years ago, I decided, with the pandemic, it was time for some changes. I really missed having the contact with people directly. So I said, I think it's time for me to make a change and go full time as a real estate broker. So I decided, which most people thought I was probably crazy doing during the pandemic, but I opened my own office in a very competitive market. As everybody probably knows, Newport is extremely competitive. A lot of great brokerages here, a lot of great agents. So I was fortunate enough to stumble across this office space that was right below the first apartment I ever rented here in Newport. So and that's what led to me saying, you know what, I'm going to reach out to a couple of friends of mine, see if they'd be interested in me opening my own office. And so here I am 2 years later already. I can't believe it.
That's awesome. Oh, how funny that how fate, right? That it's under your first.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. I mean, anybody that knows Newport, I'm right on the side of the town hall, and the whole office is glass. So I get to see everybody walking by with their dogs and hanging out and enjoying the scene here. So it's a lot of fun just to be here and observing people having fun, taking in what all Newport has to offer. So it's really cool.
What a great location too. My goodness. I'm a Newport girl. I love Newport. Nothing against Narragansett or any of our other beach areas, but man, Newport is just level.
Well, it's interesting you're saying that, because I think a lot of people haven't caught up to the idea that Newport has become a year-round destination now too. Yeah. So a lot of the places we're used to vacationing in the summers, the Martha's Vineyard, Block Island, Nantucket, you mentioned Narragansett, Point Judith. There's a lot of places that kind of shut down in the winter, and Newport's one of these really gung-ho, busy, always making plans to offer different activities and events here in the restaurant industry.
Oh yeah,
here is just unbelievable. You could walk to 40, 50 different types of restaurants over here and no problem, and you can pick any type of cuisine or whatever urges you might want to explore. You'll find it here in walking distance, and sometimes there's even more than one to choose from. So it's one of the reasons, outside of the charm, location, beaches, all the character of Newport, that you have so much to do here. It's really a special place, and I'm fortunate that I can actually say I live here and I work here. So it's been great.
And tell us about the treehouse, the Newport Treehouse.
Oh yeah, the Newport Treehouse. So yeah, that unique name. It's funny. I had an old colleague, friend of mine, John, when I told him I was going to be buying this house on Memorial Boulevard West. And it's right near, if people are familiar with Newport, Sardella's Italian restaurant, staple in Newport. And then I'm actually right on the side of Joe's American Bistro. So I purchased this house. It's going on 4 years now. And I had general business zoning, which I thought was so important to actually create an Airbnb, because as we found out fairly recently, that they're really kind of coming down on Airbnbs. So I was fortunate that I have the proper zoning to continue it. And that's what I did. I purchased this house before the market really took off. I established it as one of the premier Airbnbs in Newport. And I've been a super host now for about 8 years, and in Newport for about 4 years. So it's been going great. And as I said, it's just been booking up year round. And it always makes me feel good when I get the feedback and the ratings from people, including my own friends. Like, people reach out to me. I always tell people, hey, reach out. You ever want to stay a night? Don't look at, I got a 2-night minimum. I'll work something out with you. I try to accommodate people and make sure they're happy and they have everything they need. But it's been a blast. It's been quite the run to have that business here on the side of doing the real estate. So it's been fun.
So, I think one of the cool things about, well, there's a lot of cool things about Kyle. We love Kyle at OWS. We love Kyle. He's one of our favorites.
You're prejudiced.
Prejudice a little bit. But, having the mental health background is huge when it comes to real estate, because really being a real estate agent, and I actually used to be a wedding planner. So like having a mental health background, or some sort of like service background too, and being a realtor goes really well together, especially having a mental health background, because when it comes to buying a house or planning a wedding or something like that, but when it comes to buying a house, it's like there's so much emotion and just, decisions and things that people go through. So, I imagine that background has really helped you succeed to the level that you're at.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. I never realized how many connections there were to my background, and just having a real passion for just wanting to help people, and I want people to feel comfortable. And I know the whole process can really generate anxiety and worry, and what do I do, or how do I do this, and it really gets people going. And I tell them, hey, don't worry about it. Like, I'm here to help out in any way I can. Reach out, call me, text me, email me, any time of day or night. Like, I get it. And that's more important to me, to make sure people feel good about working with me, and that they feel comfortable, that they can trust me in handling things for them. And it goes above and beyond just the transaction for me. It's about the person and the relationships for me. And that's always been something I've been passionate about, working in the mental health field for 25 years. And I still feel like I'm in the field at times, working in real estate, because people do it, they can freak out, and, and I'd say, no, don't worry about it. Listen, this is how we're going to handle it. No big deal. And I'll take care of it. And, it really helps them get through a lot of things, because, nothing ever goes perfectly. There's always little hiccups and ups and downs, and things that you have to plan for and prepare for. And the more preparation you give, the better it turns out. You just have to have a good plan when you start things, and then it helps everything else run smoothly.
For sure. And he's the real deal, you guys. Like, if you saw his reviews, like, his clients worship him. I mean, like, for real. Like, he's not just saying that he does that. Like, he really does do it. I've seen his reviews.
I love it. That's my favorite part, really. I tell people, hey, don't ever feel pressured. I mean, even if you have questions you just want to ask me, the worst thing in the world for me is when people don't have all the information they need to make good decisions, whether they're looking to rent, buy, sell, invest, think about Airbnb. Like, all these different elements require different approaches, right? And if you don't have all the information, it's really hard for people to make informed decisions, right? So I say, hey, I get you have a family member, a cousin, a friend that is in the field, but if you ever have a question, I tell people, just reach out. Like, don't be afraid to reach out and ask me a question, even if it has nothing to do with listing a house for sale or helping you buy a house, or, could be just questions in general about what's going on with your own house. Maybe you're having a hard time finding somebody, especially in this crazy market. Nobody can get anybody to do anything right now.
Oh my
and
God,
it's been,
right?
for a better choice of words, a nightmare, to put it nicely. So, I'm hoping things get better, because it's been really stressful. Especially if you're on the buyer side, the buyer agents, all the people trying to purchase a house right now. that's what makes me feel the worst. If you have listings and you're selling, that's all great. But, when you have to go back to 20 people and tell them, hey, I'm really sorry, you put in a great offer and, the sellers decided on another offer. How do you get around all that constant disappointment? It gets back to what you were saying about how important relationships and
Right.
taking care of people are, because this is a really stressful market to be in right now.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's tough. It's tough, but
And
I'm
real
always here
estate,
to help, like I said.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
You know,
real estate is a people business, right? People think that like, oh, I'm getting into real estate so I can sell houses. Well, yes, that's the vehicle, but really it's about creating those relationships and helping people make the right decisions, like you said. So, and if you guys don't know what's going on in the market right now, I'm sure you guys have heard. It's a little crazy, right? Equity is really high.
yeah,
Multiple
yeah,
offers, bidding wars, stuff selling way over asking. It's a little crazy right now. So
that's
what do
right.
you think, what can you see from your professional opinion? Like, what do you see happening right now that might change? Obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but what do you think might happen in the next couple months to a year, let's say?
Yeah,
Couple months, I
I,
should say.
I honestly think we're just coming into the transition now. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody is already panicking how the interest rates are going up. They just went up again in the last day, and I think you're going to see things starting to slow down
yeah,
because people's affordability is going to start to decline, and the prices are still really high right now. And we all talk about, what's better? Is it better to get in with a lower interest rate with a higher principal balance? Like, for example, when you're buying a house that's priced high, yes, you get a low interest rate, but you're paying a higher principal balance on the
mhm,
total loan versus, don't panic. Don't worry. If the rates go up, it means sooner or later the prices, will stabilize. They'll
yeah,
start to come down. There won't be as much competition. There'll be the option to negotiate again, which seems like you can't do in this market. And and as far as conditions, people waiving home inspections and putting appraisal gaps in. Even, I mean, we've never seen this kind of intensity and structure and offers just to get a house. There's just no inventory out there, and people are just panicking and doing everything they can to get a house, and that's not always good depending on what your goals are. And that's why it's important to kind of talk things over, talk things through. Like I tell people, if you're ready to sell, hey, that's great. Like, it's a great market to sell, but what's your game plan for where you got to go? Are you looking to
right,
buy a house right away? Because if you are, it's going to be a tough market to try to buy some. There's so much out there with cash and strong conventional buyers that people are really losing out and putting 8, 10, 12 offers, sometimes more, and not getting the house. And they're like, what is going on? I'm bidding way over asking. I'm doing everything I think I'm supposed to be doing. And it's
yeah,
just that crazy right now, and that might not be what everybody needs right now, and I think people might just need some information and some feedback and bounce things off of people that, have knowledge and experience in the field to know what they're doing is the right decision,
yeah. Now,
you
what
know?
have you seen? What are people doing that are selling and then like the people, I think there's a difference. I think there's people that want to sell because their equity is high, and then there's people that need
Yeah.
to sell for whatever reason, they're moving or something like that. So what's happening with those people? Like, what are their options? Where do they go? Do they go
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
mom and dad again?
Those
Or
are all good questions. And there's probably multiple answers to that, because a lot of people were under the impression that if they sold high, they would have the money to go and purchase something if they were downsizing or they were upgrading in some way, right? And
Mhm,
now they're realizing, oh my God, there's no inventory and it's such a competitive market, it's so hard to buy a house, right?
right.
So now people are panicking to get a house and they're doing everything they can to get one, or they're renting right now, and now they're saying, oh my God, the rents are so high. I need to find a house and I'm okay with renting for now. But the renters are saying, oh my God, I can't get a house now. There's
Oh
no
man.
there's no inventory. So it's this trickle effect going on where
Yeah,
there's just nothing out there, and
yeah,
people, and that's what's really driving the market, is the lack of inventory for purchases and the lack of rentals even. And when you find a rental, it's the same thing. You're getting 10, 20 applicants, sometimes more, and you got to wean through all those, and there's one apartment, and it's like, oh my God, what are people doing right now in this market? And that's why in the beginning it's so important to really talk through what your goals are, because if you really truly don't have a secondary home or an apartment already lined up before you decide to sell your house in this crazy market to cash in, you're putting yourself in a bad position.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people that ahead of time. I say, hey, listen, what's your plan before we go ahead and try to sell your house, which won't be hard, right? I'll sell it in a weekend in this market, but it's making sure you have the big picture. If you don't have the big picture, you can put yourself in a real jam, trying to cash in on selling your house right now. So you got to have a good plan.
And, two things. One, I think this is where the power of having a seasoned, experienced real estate professional on your side comes in, right? Like Kyle, shameless plug, but yeah, but
I work hard at it.
Like just having someone who has that knowledge, like, I think one of the big things for you is that you've done so many different things, right? You've been a realtor for over 18 years. You're a broker owner, right? You own your own agency. You've sold your own properties. You have your own rental properties, Airbnb superhost. He's building what'd you do? You bought a house, you knocked it down, you're building it on stilts out in Fairhaven. Is that?
Yeah, Fairhaven project. Yeah, that's coming along great. I mean, granted, the market's changing now. So again, see, for me, I have to be aware of, when this house finally gets set and it's on the stilts and it's all finished, the market might not support selling it right now, and you have to prepare yourself for the other sides, right? So that's a good example.
But wait, it could be an Airbnb.
Well, yes, that's a possibility. And it's funny you mentioned that. So I was telling you earlier how Newport's really come down on Airbnb, and Newport is very specific to zoning rules and ordinances. And, and if you don't have the proper zoning here, they just passed another regulation and put an end to, residential zoned and most limited business zoned Airbnbs. They grandfathered in, I think it was four or five Airbnbs that had been pre-existing in limited business. The reason why I say this is every town and city has their own rules for short-term rentals.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what the rules of the town are, you shouldn't be buying a house, investment property that you think you're going to Airbnb or Vrbo, which is the other popular platform, without knowing those rules and regulations. And people have gotten caught in that, where they open up an Airbnb, then all of a sudden they're being shut down or fined by that town or city that it's in.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah. So for Fairhaven, that's a tough one for me to do. Fairhaven's come down on Airbnb in residential zones. So I couldn't potentially do that the correct way or the legal way of doing it. There's a lot of people that'll still do it and try it. And, there's ways around it. You can short-term rent your 30-day minimums, which is your normal tenancy at will, 30-day rental period. And that's where the towns can't really come down on you. It's when you start dropping it below the 30 days that the town can really come down on you and enforce their own town ordinances and regulations around that. So yeah, good question on that.
I think the cool thing about that too is I know this VRBO and Airbnb is super popular right now among people that are trying to break into investing in real estate. So, I think the biggest point there for our listeners is that, we talked about, I like that you made the point about, do you want a low interest rate and a higher principal, or do you want a higher interest rate and a lower principal, right? So I think that even though the rates are high and affordability is kind of like, it's a little sketchy right now, the rates will change and the equity will change. The thing is, the rates could go up or down, right? The equity is pretty much always going to go up. I mean, it's not 100% guarantee. I don't want to talk out of line, but for the most part, when you invest in real estate, it builds your net worth, and it's going to gain over time. When you pay down the balance, you have more equity in the home. So, I think that a lot of people nowadays are using these different strategies like the VRBO and the short-term rentals and all that kind of stuff to start building a portfolio.
Mhm.
So that's becoming really popular. And what better than to have someone on your side that already does that?
Yeah, no, it's true. That's another aspect of the real estate market that I have knowledge and expertise in. And again,
Yeah.
you have to. It's a great way to add to your real estate portfolio. When I started out, I did your traditional, multifamily investments, right? The idea is to, with that approach is to live in one unit and rent out the other
Yep.
unit or two and cover your mortgage, tax, and insurance, right? So you build an equity in that property versus paying rent. And,
Right.
we can talk about, how do you go about preparing yourself for qualifying to be able to buy a property for those renters out there. And a lot of renters out there don't realize that they can qualify. And
Mm,
there's nothing wrong with, calling me up and saying, hey, Kyle, I heard that, I might be able to get qualified. Maybe it's not as tough as I thought. The credit scores are extremely lenient, I think.
yeah.
I've seen 580 or better on FHA, and
Mhm.
conventional, and the FHA mortgages are great. If you're a veteran, the VA follows FHA guidelines.
Yeah.
That they're inexpensive loans to get to purchase your first home. And if you can really work at putting your rent towards, equity in a property over time, it just builds up. You don't even realize it. 5, 10 years goes by and wow, I got all this equity in my property all of a sudden that I didn't think I would have.
Right.
And
No money.
that's kind of how I started out, and then I'm like, Airbnb, what's Airbnb? And I'm like, wow, this is a great concept. And, I hopped on that about 8 years ago, and it's actually a great way of being able to build onto real estate that you own.
Yeah.
As you said, it's the same kind of traditional thought, but in my opinion, better, of collecting rents to go towards the equity in the property and the paying down of the property. So it's another great vehicle really to pay down that property and own it at some point. And I try to teach people how to go about doing that, if they're interested. It's not that difficult, and it's very self-sustaining. The
Yep.
app, the app is really user friendly, and there's really not much you got to do. Once you figure out who your cleaning is going to be, your cleaning service, and who's going to do a minor repair every now and then, outside of that, it's just, restocking the house, giving amenities to people that they might not get in hotel industry
Yeah.
uh, stays. So I think it's important to consider that as a way of getting ahead,
Yeah.
you know?
I
So,
actually started out with a multifamily, and I
yep.
lived, me and my dad. I moved my dad in. He was my tenant.
Yep.
I slept on a couch. It was a 1 bedroom. I slept on
Yep.
a couch in like this little, I don't know, it was kind of like a second bedroom slash hallway. But I had tenants upstairs, and that's how I afforded my first house. I mean, and 15 years later, I sold it, and I made some money on it, but
Yeah.
I lived
Yeah.
there. I didn't rent it the whole time. I lived there for most of the time, but I had tenants, for years, and it's definitely the way to go. So
Yeah, yeah, and then there's other financing options that a lot of people aren't aware of that I learned about over the years. Commercial financing is a total separate entity from your traditional residential financing, right? So
yeah,
people are always under the impression, go to a local bank and I'm going to apply for a mortgage to buy my first property. The problem with that is over time, you can only approve for so much money with what you show for income on your taxes,
right.
what your credit score has to be, debt that you might have. That all gets taken into account under your FICO score, it's called, right? So, if you move over to commercial financing, they don't have the same type of restrictions that residential financing has, right? So commercial allows you to just utilize liquid assets if you have them, or liquid in a property that you already own. And they'll look at your credit score, they'll look at your liquid, and then, they let you borrow a certain amount up to what you have. They don't really look at tax returns. They don't necessarily look at, how much property you own and whether your debt is too great to be able to purchase another property. And when I fell into that type of financing and I kind of studied it and looked into it more, I realized, wow, there's no limitations. You can keep buying investment property after investment property once you get yourself started out and you're established, and you're not tied to how much money you're showing on your tax returns. I don't show a lot of money on my tax returns. I don't make crazy money in what I do. People have impressions about what people have, but the reality is I put everything I can into real estate, so the real estate properties I own are building equity, and that's where I grow my wealth. It's not in liquid form I'm growing it, right? You only need a certain amount of liquid to borrow against it in commercial financing, and it's not as much as you think it'd be.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
One of the other cool things among the many about Kyle is that with Bayshores, you've sort of created, well, not sort of, but you've created this conglomerate, right? So you've got, even if you go to his website, which is bayshoresliving.com, you'll see that he's got, you're a realtor, and you've got Derek, correct, is another realtor.
Yeah, Derek joined the office recently. Great guy.
Yeah.
Just got his license, and I'm, giving him some training on how to establish himself as an agent, and he's doing great.
And then we've got Casey. So we've got Casey who does cleaning.
Yep, Casey. Yep, she has her own cleaning service and specializes in a lot of the Airbnb turnovers here in Newport, but she also does a lot of retail office and residential properties as well. So she's been great to have as well.
And then you have David for financing.
Yep. David's been jumping in whenever I've needed him to work with people, especially in this market, on types of financing, right? It's been so competitive. You have to really know what you're doing in terms of structuring offers and what your financing looks like and how much money down you should show and how much money you should put with an offer and what kind of conditions should you put in there as a element of your offer. And yeah, all those things become so important. So again, I think it's important to have good people that you work with that have their own expertise and knowledge to help the process move more smoothly, if you will. So that's good.
So you've built this team, even though it's different, David's obviously got his own business and Casey has hers, and I think it's Rick Lima is a closing attorney. So
Michael Lima. Yep.
Sorry, I don't know where I got Rick.
That's okay. That's all right.
So the nice thing about that is you've created sort of a one-stop shop, right? For someone who's looking to do anything in real estate, whether it's buy, sell, rent, invest, renovate, whatever, right? You're, from property management, legal advice, mortgage advice, like you have made a one-stop shop. So talk to us a little bit about creating your own brokerage and what has been, this is always my final question to everybody, and they're always like, ooh, what has been what would be your biggest nugget of knowledge to the entrepreneurs and the people that are in the group about, building that business and the way that you've structured it and the way that you've sustained it? I know.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of questions in there. And I'll have to kind of think my way through all the answers on this. So when I started it out, my goal was to kind of really fall back on my background and working with people in the human service field, right? So I approached it as I just really want to take care of everybody and do everything I can to make them happy and make them feel comfortable in working with me. And that's first and foremost. And then after that, I said, okay, what can I do to really make the process easier for everybody, right? Because when you're getting ready to sell a house or help somebody to buy a house, if your goals are to do that, then what goes into all of that, right? So I said, okay, maybe I can approach this in a way where I can take care of all the different elements and aspects of buying and selling a house without people having to worry about any elements or conditions within that they have to worry about taking care of themselves. So I basically say, okay, if we're going to sell your house, what do we want to start? We want to meet in person, talk about it, go over, what we should do to get the house ready. And, for example, we were talking earlier about trying to get people to do anything, fixes, replacing things, getting a house ready. It's impossible to get that right now. Well, I have my own group of guys that I can bring in and help people, do touch up paint, and I'm not talking about major things here. I'm talking about very small visual things that are important to get your house ready for the market. So there's one element. Then it becomes, okay, how do we stage the property? Is there too much furniture in here? Is there too many people hear this? There's too many photos everywhere. It's a collage all over the walls, right? Like, so, we're going to take some of that stuff out, take some of this clutter out. Like, again, there's another aspect that, maybe people didn't think about that, they're worrying about that we can address during that time. And then it's like, okay, what now? And then I explain the paperwork, the process, what happens during a transaction, everything that goes into it and what they need to do to prepare and to get through the whole process beginning to end is done for them ahead of time. And what better way to calm you and not have you worry about a single thing than to really know what you need to do beginning to end.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no surprises. It's all in the preparation. As long as you prepare people that you're working with and making sure you understand them and where they're coming from and what their goals are, there's no need for anybody to ever have to worry about a single thing. And that's really what it comes down to. And I think that's what's really led to me building my own business and sustaining it at this point is people really come back to me and say, Kyle, geez, thanks so much for all this. You really went out of your way to do A through Z, and we can't thank you enough. And I get that time and time again, and that fills me up more than anything.
Yeah.
I love when I hear people tell me that, and they really, really appreciate it. And really, all my business, I've been doing this, like I said, for 18 years. I've never really advertised up until this year and marketed till this year, and I'm doing that with you guys now. And I'm just saying to myself, all the business I do is just from people that I've known, that I've worked with, and that had their experiences with me, and they just come back to me and ask me to help them again, or they refer somebody to me.
Yeah.
And really that means more to me than anything, that they thought of me to do that. And that makes me feel like they really appreciated everything I did for them,
Yeah.
And I think that right there is the most important thing to do for anybody in any business,
Yes.
period, across the board. And if you can't do those things, if you can't be unconditionally giving yourself to other people in any business that you do, you're really falling short of trying to maintain something. And I think that's what's carried me all this time.
Definitely. That's the nugget, you guys. That's it right there. Treat people. What's the golden rule, right? It's treat people the way you would want to be treated, right? And like we said, sales is about, I think people don't realize, and I preach this a lot when I do teachings and classes, and I've done realtor training and all kinds of stuff, but my main thing is always like, sales is service. You're not really, yes, you're selling something, whether it's skincare or a house, doesn't matter, right? It could be anything in between, right? But it's the way that you treat people, right? That's what they remember. They remember the service they got from you. They remember how you made them feel. And that's really it. That's such the simplest way to explain how to be successful at selling anything, right? And you definitely have it down, my dear. You definitely have it down.
It's what I love doing. I bring what I love to the table, and I show that to people, and I know they appreciate it, because that's really the most important thing to me. And in the end, I'm always available to help out in any way I can, whether it's personal, professional, relationship, whatever. I'm here. So I carry it through in all aspects with everybody I'm with. I'm not just doing it here just for selling or buying purposes. It's about the people for me. So I've been happy with that, and it makes me feel good. And at the end of the day, I sleep well at night. So that's.
There you go. I love it. Kyle, you are the best. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Oh my God. My pleasure. It was great seeing you again, and thanks for doing this. And hopefully we can help a lot more people in the future together.
We will definitely post some info on Kyle in the comments for you guys, so you can check it out if you have any real estate related questions, or you're thinking about selling, you're thinking about buying, you just need somebody to help you out. Give him a call. He is the real deal. I can vouch for that personally.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
we will look forward to cheering on your success continually. And next week we'll have someone equally awesome. I'm not sure. I know Kim's gonna kill me because every week I'm like, I don't know who it's gonna be next week. I'm sorry. I'm like, I run an agency, and believe me, I'm in the cone of marketing. This is my marketing cone that I'm in. So we'll have someone awesome next week too. So until then, I hope you guys have a great week. Have a great weekend and a great week. And Kyle, you are the best. Thank you again. And we'll see you guys on next Fearless Friday.
Thanks again.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thanks.